I remember back in 2016 when I bought my first large apartment complex. Like we had bought a bunch of other stuff before then, but I remember when we bought our large apartment complex back in 2016, I bought it for like an 8% cap rate. I remember sitting at a bar with a gentleman. His name was Tommy, and he had just finished selling a big portfolio of storage units to a third party REIT. And he goes, cap rates were really good. He felt at that time, and that they had just exited this portfolio for like $300 million. And I remember thinking at that time when I sat at the bar with him over at McCormick Ranch in Scottsdale, Arizona, I remember thinking, wow, like how incredible is that? And I just remember thinking, this was just 2016, guys. It like wasn't that long ago. And I had already been in the industry for 16 years. And so I was like sitting back going, damn, I would love to be able to have a $300 million portfolio, right? Like to sell something off for $300 million, it wasn't even like fathomable to me at that time. And I felt like, man, I worked 16 years and I put together like this little $20 million portfolio. And it was like an arbitrage portfolio because the volatility in the market reflects like what the real amount is. So I was like, I need to get to work. And he explained to me, I remember sitting there at McCormick Ranch at dinner. He and I sat there all night, man. We just talked. It was super cool. And we just met on accident. He sat next to me at the bar. When I'm alone, that's what I do is I sit there. Hey, Precious, how was your final? Good? Just good. That's what you get from kids. Everything's just good. I go, it's not just good. Like not everything could just be good. Like how was it, right? Anyways, so we sat there for hours and he and I got into this long conversation. He explained to me like how they flush their accounts, how they do their individual LLCs, which was very similar to how I did mine. But then he talked about how they did these portfolios of storage, right? So from this conversation that I had with him in 2016, I was already working on this multifamily thing, but I didn't know like the magnitude of it. And I remember sitting there going, like dreaming, right? Like for a second, like, damn, I think I can do that, but I didn't even know where to get started. And so I know for like a lot of people, that's where you guys are today. Now, since that time, we've done over $600 million worth of development that we haven't sold. We're just keeping that stuff, right? And so one of the things that I like to tell people is, where you think you are today, if you work diligently through this process, you'll really be surprised. And you'll probably even surprise yourself where you'll be, and even just 5 years from now. But you have to like consistently work towards that. Like at that time, like the moving pieces, I couldn't even fathom. Right? It was just like confusing to me. But this is what I did get. And I'm going to explain this to you guys today because this is what I got. I bought that first apartment complex at an 8% cap rate. And I remember shopping stuff. And I remember looking at prices. And I was like comparing it to 2008 and where we were in the 2008 recession and where things were at in 2007, pre-recession, at the highest point of the market, thinking, man, if we get back to those numbers, I'm going to start being very leery of where we're at because I didn't think we could get back to those numbers. And I thought that once we did, I knew there was going to be a bubble that was going to burst. Well, little did I know that all this pandemic stuff was going to happen and numbers in the prices were going to go through the roof and the cap rates were going to get compressed. Well, in less than one calendar year, I see it was like 9 months, things went from an 8 cap to a 7 cap. So less than 9 months later, I went shopping back for another apartment complex because I was like, wow, I really like this apartment complex stuff. Like this, I should have been in this shit a long time ago. Why have I been so blind to this, right? So then I go in and buy another one, and it was 7% cap rate, paid more money, got less units. And I thought, okay, well, it felt like a good deal. I really liked it. I was like, okay, good. So then I went back and I tried buying another one. And when I went back to the third one, I was like, the cap rates then went from 7% down to 6%. So now we're like just less than 18 months into this whole multifamily thing. And if you guys know how I bought my Subway stores, you're supposed to buy one Subway store a year when I got started in a Subway back in like 2009. And then you're supposed to buy only 2 your second year. What about 13 in 1 year? Okay. So, when I do things, I tend to hyper accelerate them once I like something. Once I know that that's like what I'm going to do and I really like the business model, I don't have time to waste. I'm going, you know what? I'm going in full fledged. So then I go back in, I try to buy a third one. And I'm like, damn, in the time that it took me to buy 3 apartment complexes, the cap rate went all the way freaking down to 6% and values went up. And I was like, shit, man, numbers just keep going up exponentially, right? So then I go, you know what? We're just going to build them because I underwrote the way it would cost me to build them. And since I built a lot of stuff before, I was like, okay, I'm going to build these things. And so I told people, I remember sitting in front of a room in 2019 in Irvine, California. And it was my first real estate domination. I told people, you mark my word as God's my witness. I said, you're going to see all of these, everything that's getting purchased today is going to get compressed and people are going to lose their pads. They're going to lose their ass, right? And no one believed me. And I go, people in there believe me, but no one else outside of there believed me, right? So I sat back and I go, you watch what happened. Now, ladies and gentlemen, some of the best syndicators are losing their ass. You guys know some of them. And so one of the big things that I wanted to share with you guys today is how do you get started with a place you can pallet mentally, whether you're doing well financially and you're in and you have a lot of money, or you're just getting started and you're dead beat broke. Okay, that's the thing for today. And for one thing that I know is that every single person on here has the ability to build a 6-unit or 8-unit apartment complex. Everybody, one of you guys on here. And here's why it's so important, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what I'm going to go through. What's up, Ruben? How are you, bro? And this is what I'm going to go over with you guys. Okay, is that one of the big things is understanding how to underwrite the cost to build and the value. And the reason you want to know what the cost to build is because you want to see if the cost to build can afford the value and what it's worth in today's market, because you can't even buy anything today. Like I would challenge you guys to say, here's the only thing that's available right now today. If you have relationships with commercial brokers or banks and they call you off-market deals, you can get, but you have to have those relationships. We're getting some of that stuff. But even those of us who have those relationships, we're not getting as much as I'd like to see. And so we, in fact, they're trying to restructure a lot of this debt. And so I tell people, I said, there's not inventory out there. The market got so hyper-stimulated, this stuff got bought up, and the prices went up so immensely that people can't refinance out of them, and they can't even sell them. They have to hold them right now. And if you can't hold them right now, it's because you're losing them. And so the best thing for people to do to have ownership of these apartments is just hold them. Because if you hold them in due time, values will go back up and you'll be able to exit them, or you just keep cash flowing, but they don't, no one wants to sell them. And the people that do have to sell them, they can't sell them. And there's 2 reasons they can't sell them. One, because they're over leveraged on these assets. They bought them at a 4% cap rate, 3% cap rate, 5% cap rate. You can't refinance those right now. So a buyer like me and you can't go to a bank, and people go, like I have friends, I'm going to get into multifamily. I say, great. Are you going to buy it or are you going to build it? And they're like, well, I'm going to buy it because it's easier, right? Like they think in their mind it's easier. I'm going, screw that shit, man. Like I'm going to build this stuff because it doesn't make sense to buy it. Like it makes absolutely no logical sense to buy it. And so I go, there's nothing available. Like there is nothing available unless you find somebody who has a 20-year fixed mortgage or 30-year fixed mortgage on an apartment complex that they finance at a 3%, 4% cap rate, and then they're going to sell it to you at a 3 or 4% cap rate because you have time to exit. So you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit, going, okay, over the course of the next 15 years, because say they owned it for 5, you're going to have it for another 5 years, and then you'll exit it and then sell the other 10 years to another syndication person who's going to go and syndicate it. And then you do some value add, you push rent, you make a little spread. Maybe it's a 200-unit apartment complex and they renovated 50 units, and then they give you the opportunity to do the value add on another 150 units. You go out and renovate 100 units, and now there's still 50 units that there's value add for a third party to buy from you. And you're making fees. You're making the asset management fees, and then that's where asset managers and GPs make their money, right? So you could do that, right? The problem is how many of those are available, and how many of you guys have a resume to do that? Okay, like how many of you guys have a resume to do that? Okay, and the answer is very, very, very few of you guys. Now, here's the other option that you have. How many of you guys have the ability to go in and then, P.S. by the way, you make like a 2.5% management fee. You can't even make a living on that. So you're making like $25,000 a year, $30,000 a year in management fees. Because the goal is for you to sell the asset at a higher valuation by increasing the net operating income over the course of 3 to 5 years. That's how syndicators make money. They give away 70% of the equity on the project. They retain 30%, but the 30% they keep, they have to collateralize against the bank, and they don't make no money on that. Once they sell the asset, the upside is where they actually make their return on investment. Now, and a lot of times they can't even keep 30% because they have multiple partners, multiple general partners, and multiple limited partners that consume a lot of that. So they might only keep maybe 1/3 of that, so which is 10%, or maybe 1/6 of that. Okay. So they're not making very much. It's nothing to brag about, ladies and gentlemen. And so, or you guys can go out and build a 6-unit apartment complex. And you may not compete with a 100-unit, 200-unit apartment complex in your eyes based on units, because people will sit back and go, I got 500 units under management. Good for you. How much of that shit do you actually own, though, is my question. You may have that under management, but how much of that shit do you own? Like, how much of that is yours? And the answer is almost absolutely friggin' nothing for most of them. Okay? Most people ooh and ah about it, but the reality is they almost own nothing. Now, how many of you guys would much rather own like 2 10 units of apartments that you own 100% of them? Or how many of you guys would rather manage and be an asset manager over 200 units that you have like a $25,000 a year income from, and potentially make an upside depending on what the market does under these unforeseen circumstances? Which would you guys rather do? Okay. Now I'm going to ask that exact same question at the very end of this. Okay. Because I'm going to explain to you guys, I'm going to break this down. Now, and then I want to know the answer at the end of this. Okay. Because one 10-unit apartment complex can change your life in such a positive way forever. Okay. So let's break this down. You guys ready to go into this for the next 20 minutes? You want me to do a 20-minute breakdown? Then I'm going to open up for Q&A. Today's your guys' time. Okay. You guys ready? If you guys want to get me to get started on this, okay, cool. All right, because if not, no problem, man. I got, I'll go hit the gym, man. I just did my cardio. I got to finish hitting my shoulders. Okay, cool. So let's get into this, guys. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we're going to break this down high level. We're going to build. You guys, what do you guys want to build? You guys want to build a 6-unit? I think that life changing, really, like 6 units are awesome. 4 units are good. You get 8 to 10 units, guys. They're just life changing. But I wanted you to palate it. So you guys. Okay, 6-unit, 8-unit, or 10-unit. What do you guys want me to underwrite? 6, 8, or 10? Let's see which I see more of. 6, 10, 8, 10, 10, 10. Oh, 8 and 10. There's a 6 in there. 10, 8, 8, 10, 10. Oh, geez. Okay, you know what? In Dallas, I'm going to underwrite an 8-unit. Let's do a 10-unit real quick, guys. I saw the least amount of 6 units. Now, for those of you guys doing 6 units, I know that the reason you're taking 6 units. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to do a 6-unit, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you can pallet a 6-unit, I want to get everybody in here. So let's do a 6-unit today. And here's why. Because if I underwrite a 6-unit, all of you guys that are thinking about a 10-unit can sit back and go, shit, I can do a 6-unit. That's only 4 more units. I can do another 4 units, and I can do a 10-unit. Okay. And I just want to show you how immensely, and we'll just multiply the 6-unit by 2 for a 12-unit. How about that? Because the exact same thing it costs to build a 6-unit is what it's going to multiply by 2 to build a 12-unit. So let's do that. Let's do a 6-unit. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And you guys, I'm going to ask for your help. We have hundreds of you guys on here. And with hundreds of people that are on here, the only way that I can do this, because I don't know how the hell this thing works, I'm using my iTablet on my whiteboard on my tablet. And when you guys move your cursors, I can see it actively move on my end as well because of the screen share. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is just kindly take your fingers off the cursors so that way it doesn't overwrite, but I'm writing, okay? And this way I can kind of share it with you guys. I can do it on a whiteboard, but this way is so much easier. Okay, let's do this. Lab 6, thank you, man. But I know I'm doing good, baby. I know I'm doing good. We're going to do a 6-unit. Okay. Now, and we're not going to do a 4-unit. 4-unit, you can get a residential loan. I really want you guys to learn that screw the residential loans, guys. Like, get in the commercial, man. It's easy. I know people sit back and they get caught on this 80-20 deal where on residential, they can maybe get in at 10%. Don't get caught on that bullshit. I got caught on that bullshit when I was younger. Don't get caught on that bullshit, guys. I'm telling you guys, get into commercial loans. The way banks look at commercial assets are so immensely different than residential assets. And it's so much better because they look less at you and more at the asset. They're going to look and make sure you're credit worthy. They're going to make sure that you have some experience. Like, that's why I tell you, build a house first, build a house first. But go into commercial assets. Like, over 4 units is commercial assets. Once you get into commercial assets, you'll never go to residential assets again. You'll sit back and go, damn, I wish they would have taught me this crap in school. They didn't. They taught me a bunch of bullshit about World War I, II, Vietnam, and all this other stuff, the Korean War and all this stuff that, great, that stuff's great. You can read that shit in a book, on your free time if you love it. But I'll tell you guys, it'll never make you money. This shit will impact your life forever, guys, forever. Okay, let's go into this. Hit my whiteboard. Okay, again, ladies and gentlemen, please kindly refrain from hitting your cursors, because I can see your movements on my end, and I can see your screen name too. So we have these paintballs that Esther has, my assistant, and I gave her free reign. I said, if they monkey with their cursors, Esther, I said, just blast them with a paintball. So if you get pegged on the side of the head with a paintball in your house, it came from Esther. Esther did it. I gave her permission. You go, pink, pink, it's from me. No, I'm just joking. We wouldn't really do that, but if I could, I would. Okay, here we go, guys. So we're going to do an 6-unit build. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on crushing some of your guys' limited beliefs. Because one of the things that I know most about most people is that they really believe that this is an undertaking, and it's not. It's not that big of an undertaking. And the reason I know is because I just see our students, man, and the success that so many of them are having building houses. And so the way houses work, and I want to compare this to one house, okay? Now, some of you guys have seen me do this, but you guys didn't only retain about 7 to 10% of everything that you guys hear, okay? So even if you guys heard this once, let's say that you guys are geniuses, okay? And let's say that I gave you guys last week 100% of the information on how to do this, and you saw this, okay? And let's say that you guys are like Einstein, and let's say that instead of retaining 7 to 10%, you guys retain 50%, okay? Now, that means that first time you guys heard this, you guys retained 50% of the information, okay? Now, what that means is if you guys go out and you try to reiterate this to somebody else that you're trying to do the business model to, you might have got 50%, but now you might have a business partner, somebody else, you go and explain it to them, they're only getting 50% of what you're telling them, even if they're Einstein level smart, and they get about 25%. Then you go into your subcontractors, your architect, your engineer, try to explain the business model I explained to you guys, and they're only getting about 12%. Okay? And so there's an attrition rate here. And these guys go in, and now you guys go in and try to give this to your subcontractors, and they get about 7%. Okay? And so the problem is, how well are you going to do with 7% of the information, even if you were a super Einstein level smart, and you're trying to explain this down here, 4 levels deep, and they're only getting 7% of the real information. How well are you doing? Good or bad? You're doing horrible, okay? So what I tell you guys is every time you hear it, how about if you guys only retain 7 to 10%, then you get 12, come back to Dallas, retain 25, come back, work with us, you get 50. Sooner or later, you're just a badass, and you've retained 100%, and now you're just crushing it, okay? So even... Yes, it's being recorded. And so even, guys, if you guys only get 50% of what I hear today, you guys need to come back and get more, okay? So if you heard this before, listen, because today you're going to get even more than you got last time, okay? Now, first of all, when you build one house, our business model, usually the houses are somewhere between 2,000 and 2,800 square feet. So if you have like a 2,500 square foot house, that house itself, guys, that's just the heated or under air area. Okay, now let's say you have porches, garages, and heated area all mixed. That 2,500 square foot house, if you have a 900 square foot garage and another 500 square feet of porches, you're going to be someplace in the neighborhood of about 3,800 square feet. Okay. So you're going to be closer to about 3,800 square feet of actual built space. That's one house, guys. That's total square footage that was built is close to 3,800 square feet. Okay. On one house. So if you do two houses, you've already built 7,600 square feet worth of houses just by building two houses. Okay. That's 7,600 square feet. That's short for square feet. Okay. Now I'm going to crush you guys' limited beliefs because two houses working with us is 7,600 square feet. So I always tell people, go build a house, learn how to friggin' build, right? Like go build a house, make 150 grand building a house. And you're going to sit back and you're going to have an epiphany after you build your first house. And you're going to feel like a fucking rock star. You're going to sit back and go, damn. You're going to sit back and say, damn, man, you're going to feel like a damn rock star. I kid you not. Because you're going to sit back and you're going to feel like you have just conquered and overcame so much once you've built one house. Because your brain is telling you can't do it. I'm telling you you can because it's not that hard. And so now there's this bridge that you have to get gap over mentally. You build one house, you make $150,000. You're feeling like a damn rock star. What's the first thing you want to do? Is build another one and probably two at the same time. So when you go in, and I tell you guys after your first year of building houses, go build a 6-unit apartment complex. For some of you guys that want to skip the house and go straight to a 6-unit, you can do that too. And if you say, let's say that you have 1,000 square foot each, that's 6,000 square feet. So if you have 6 units that are each 1,000 square feet, those are definitely 2-bedroom units. Okay. That equals 6,000 square feet. Okay. That's less than building 2 houses, guys. See, that's 2 houses. That is less than building 2 houses right there. 6,000 square feet. You're building these little tiny 2-bedroom unit apartment complexes. Okay. And what's cool is you can buy land almost friggin' anywhere. You can go in and you can go into an infill area, inner city, urban area, right in town. And all of us have seen these. You go to your downtown area where everything's distressed because it's 100 years old, literally in most hometowns throughout the United States. You sit back and you'll find these little homes. And right by these little homes, there's little law firms. They've taken these old little historic homes built in the 50s and 60s, and they've turned them into little tiny, they turn them into these little tiny boutique law firms and these little boutique offices or these little boutique clothes places or little restaurants. Like in Phoenix, they have some cool little steak restaurants, pizza parlors that they turn these old houses into. You buy one of those houses that are distressed, literally distressed. You can go in, find a distressed lot, maybe pay someplace in the neighborhood of about $120,000 to $150,000 for the lot. Okay. Now, you can go into areas that are growing and more progressive and find a little commercial lot or a little residential lot that allows for multi-unit build, like an R2 zoning, and that allows for like condominiums or something. A lot of times those areas that allow for medium density or low density will allow, or even high density building, they'll go in and you can get 6 units. It's not that hard. Okay. Now when we go in, guys, we can go in and do 6,000 square feet, and you could go in. Yeah, lots in the Bay Area are going to be a little more expensive, Lillian. But watch, I can't talk to the Bay Area independently because that's like one little tiny incy-bincy sector, and I got 50 other states across the United States, okay? So if you're in the Bay Area, just you'll multiply this out, okay? I'm going to talk to 99.9% of you guys, including those of you guys in the Bay Area, but understand that this works everywhere, okay? I'm going to talk about it in the masses, right? Like where it works in the masses, the vast majority of the United States. And then obviously there's little subsectors of this. Like I can't pick up land for that cheap in Washington State either. But in Washington State, like Kirkland and those areas, it's like very minute areas, okay? So I'm going to ignore your guys' questions for now, not on purpose, because we're going to go back and we're going to go through all your questions. But here in just a bit. But I'm gonna go through the underwriting. What I want you guys to understand is just the underwriting more than anything. The square footage can vary. The price for the land can slightly vary. I want you guys to understand the underwriting. The underwriting is what's important, because if you understand how to underwrite, no matter, you can underwrite these higher or lower. Like if you're in the Bay Area, you're going to pay more for land, but you're also going to get a shit ton more money for rent. So like where these things are going for, $2,100 a month nationwide for a 2-bedroom plus CAM fees, you might be getting someplace in the neighborhood of about like $2,150 to $2,200 a month for rent. Okay, so like let's call it like $2,175 with rubs, with rental upgrades. That's like rental applications, dog deposits, little tiny stuff like that. Okay, now, so if we get $2,175 per unit, you're going to go to the Bay Area, you might get like $3,500 a unit for these, or $4,000 a unit for something like these in an area where you're paying more for land. So it all balances out. You just need to learn how to underwrite. Okay, so $2,175 per unit. Okay, we have 6 units. We're going to multiply this times 6. So $2,175 times 6, that's $13,050 a month. Okay, so that's $13,050 a month in income. We're going to multiply that times 12. So times 12, that's going to be $156,000 per year. $156,600 per year. Hang tight one second, guys. I had a head cold for a couple of days. So let me get some water. Okay. Cool. Some of you guys call in sick to work for nothing. My head felt like it was going to explode for 2 days. And when you're self-employed, you can't call in sick, man. There's like a shit ton of people relying on you. So we've been hard at it, man. Like nothing's wrong. So we've had the busiest last few days that I've had in a long time. Okay, so here we go, guys. And I'm here for you guys to friggin' crush this out for you guys. Okay, so see our gross income potential. That's gross income potential. Okay, that's what GIP stands for. Okay, is $156,000. Okay, now most apartment complexes revolve at a 5% revolution every single month. So if we take 95% of this, we take 100 to find we want to find our gross operating income. Okay, so you have to subtract your vacancies. So in order to do that, you take your $156,600 times 95%. Okay, that's going to give us our gross operating income. Okay, so we take 156,600 times 0.95. Okay, so our gross operating income after vacancies is going to be 148,770. Okay, that is your gross operating income. Okay, now what we really need to find out is what our net operating income is. And the way you do that is you take all your expenses. Okay, so we want to find our net operating income. These formulas are important, guys. This is the way banks are looking at assets. Okay, in fact, I'll show you guys. I have my West Camelback underwriting right here for our investors that they asked for, and I'll show it to you guys right after we're done here. Since I have a screenshot, I'll show it to you guys because this is the exact same way. This is a real life underwriting right here, by the way. And So our net operating income equals our gross operating income minus expenses. Okay. Okay. Now I want to get your minds wrapped around this. Give me some expenses, guys. So some expenses, and you can put this in the chat. We have property taxes as an expense, right? We have insurance is an expense. Yep. What else, guys? Yep. Deferred maintenance, regular maintenance, utilities. Yep. Not loan. So whoever said loan in debt, no. Okay, guys. So whoever said loans and debt, it's an expense, but it's not an expense of the apartment complex. That's your expense. Okay. So I want you guys to understand. We want to know, like, what is the expense of this piece of real estate? Not your expenses. Your expenses, your mortgage is your expense. Somebody could pay cash for this, and if they paid cash for it, is a mortgage an expense? The answer is no, right? Because they paid cash. So expenses are everything but debt service. Okay. So you're going to have utilities. You're going to have landscaping, which is all part of maintenance, right? Like this stuff's all part of maintenance, landscaping. You're going to have light bulbs, toilets, all that stuff. Now, yeah, so CapEx we'll usually do separately, especially if it's brand new construction, right? Because your CapEx is going to be deferred for a little while, which in due time it will. Yes, snow removal, all of that stuff is all going to be the expense to actually run and facilitate that business. Now, typically on a property this small, most of you guys would probably self-manage this property. And even if you didn't, property management will be somewhere between 5 and 8%, give or take. And so let's say, for example, even as high as 10% plus all your maintenance, you can run this property for about 25% of cost. But let's call it 30%, just in case things are done a little bit. Let's say that you have higher expenses or higher property taxes than expected. Okay. So we'll take our gross operating income of $148,770. Okay. That's our GOI, gross operating income. And we're going to multiply that times 30%. This is our expenses. Okay. We're going to take that 148,770 times 0.3. That's $44,630. Okay. So we're going to take, to find our NOI, we're going to take 148,770 minus our expenses of 44,631. Okay. So our net operating income is equivalent to 104,139. Okay. That's our NOI right there. Okay. Our net operating income is extremely important, guys. And the reason why our net operating income is so important is because this number right here is how you figure out the value of the asset. Okay. So value, you can't get a loan unless you can assess value. A bank can't give you a loan unless they can assess value. And here's what's cool. You guys go in and we entitle this. You can assess what this is worth. This is what a bank's going to do to give you construction money. They're looking less at you and they're looking more at this right here. What they want to know is they want to know what your expenses are and where you derived your expenses from. And they want to know what your net operating income is. That right there. That's what they want. Okay. Because with your net operating income, this value right here can give you the asset value. Okay. So value equals net operating income divided by cap rate. Okay. Now, some of you guys are sitting back going, shit, Jerome, what's a cap rate? Okay. A cap rate is the percentage of return on investment if you paid cash for the asset. Okay, that's Jerome's definition of it. Okay, so that's your cap rate. Okay, in a nutshell. Now, what that means to those of you guys who are watching right now is that if you went out and you bought a stock, let's say that stock, any stock, right, was bearing a return of an annual return of 8%. And that's what it had been bearing on average for the last 10 years is 8%. Some years they got 6%, some years they got 10%, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 8% is the return on investment. So if you gave a $100,000 investment to the stock market and you averaged 8% return on investment, annual return, that is like it having an equivalence of an 8% cap rate in real estate. So if you paid $1 million for an asset and you had an 8% cap rate, that means you're making an 8% return on your money that you pay cash for that asset for each year. So your money is making you 8%. That's your cap rate. Okay. Now, so what we need to figure out this is what's important to the banks right here. Now we need this right here. And this value is going to fluctuate depending on what the average apartment complex is bearing as far as expenses, because you're going to use what's called a pro forma to assess this stuff because your apartment complex is still not built. So you use other apartment complexes and you see what they're doing. You take the performance, their pro formas, what those apartment complexes are performing at, and based on their percentage of expenses is what the bank's going to say, well, you can't run for 15% expenses when everybody else around you is functioning at 25 or 30% expenses. You're more than likely your expenses are going to be in alignment with theirs because you're buying power from the same power company. You're buying sewer and trash from the same power and trash company. You're paying the same municipal property tax fees, and you're shopping insurance premiums from very similar insurance companies in the same exact market. So your rates should be very close. So you're not going to save masses of percentages and expenses. Managing the property, you might save a little bit, 5% maybe, but the vast majority is going to be assessed based on the performance of that current market and what other properties are running for in that market. So they're going to be paying attention to this expense percentage, and they're going to be paying attention to your NOI, this number right here, guys, that NOI, okay? Okay, so we take our NOI of $104,000, right? We have an NOI. I wrote over it. Sorry, guys. 104, 139. Okay, so let's find out what the value of this thing is. 104, 139 divided by a 6% cap rate. That's what banks are at right now. Now, we're underwriting them at both the 6 and 5% because we're keeping our friggin' fingers crossed that interest rates at some time in our lifetime here in the next year or two start to go down. And I believe they will. But we're still underwriting with 6% because this is what the banks are looking at right now. Okay? So we take this $104,000 to find the value. We take 104, 139, and divide it by 6%, 0.06, okay? So we take 104, 139 divided by 0.06. That's 1 million. So the value equals 1,735,650. Okay. How many of you guys would love to own an asset that you built in 6 months, guys? 6 months. And you had a net worth in an asset that was $1,735,000. Okay. How many of you guys would love to have that? Okay. Anybody love to have a $1.7 million asset that you own? It's yours. You own it. Anybody other than Tommy? How many of you guys would love to have a $1.7 million 6-unit apartment complex? Yeah, everybody, man. I mean, I'll take one. I'll take another one, Okay, now, if interest rates go down, and guys, we're getting 6% interest rates. In fact, I was just at breakfast this morning with a state-ran fund that we could get 5.1% interest right now today in the shitty market. It has to fall into their requirements of affordable housing. But if I built it into their requirements of affordable housing, they were willing to give me a 5.1% interest rate, which I am willing to do because our builds actually fall into their requirements for affordable housing. And we have no rent restrictions and no early payoff penalties, and I can get 5.1%. But with HUD, you could still get close to 6%. Okay, so banks are looking at it from this 6% perspective. If we do it at a 5% cap rate, so if you take the NOI divided by a 5% cap rate, do that as same multiplier, 104,139 divided by 0.05 for 5%. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, not multiplied, it's divided by. Yeah. So 104, 139 divided by 0.05. That gives you a 2 million. So at a 5% cap rate, your value is 2,082,780. Let me clean that up for you guys. They look like shit. $2,082,780. Same building, guys. No difference. Has the exact same walls, same tenants, same everything. Same paint, same finish out, same everything. The difference is only these two things right here. A 5% cap rate versus a 6% cap rate. You wait till it's at a 5% cap rate. Your cash on cash return is your percentage. This is your cash on cash return right here. Okay. Your cap rate is your cash on cash return. Okay. So your cash on cash return. So if you take it at a 6% cap rate, you take this value right here. You take 1,735,650 times 0.06. That's $104,000 a year in revenue. 139. That's your cash on cash. Per year. Okay. That's provided you don't have a mortgage, right? But that's your cash on cash return if you pay cash for it. Okay. Now, you guys want to figure out if you guys can build this thing? The banks don't care about this number right here, guys. What they care about is this number right here. Because that's at a 6% cap rate. 5% doesn't exist yet. They're doing it based on current market rates. That's what they're valuing it at right there. 6% cap rate and this value right here. Okay. So let me circle these in red because we're going to do this. I'm going to do that as 6%. I'm going to do the value at this value. Okay. Because we have to underwrite it with today's numbers. Okay. Okay. So if we go back in here, guys, let's look at our cost to build. I'm going to shrink this down because the only number you really need to be legible right now are those two numbers that are in red. Those are your most important numbers. Okay. Now, okay. Cost to build. 6 units. 1,000 square feet. Okay. So you take 6 units times 1,000, that's 6,000 square feet. Okay. Now, you take 6,000 square feet and The average price to build, I just finished building my Youngtown project in November at $152 a square foot. That included general contractors fees. Now, when I look at some of the savings, and you guys may have some of this savings, because a lot of these little things, these little deals are going to be a lot of infill, adaptive reuse, tear down, rebuild. Okay. And so if you guys go in, a lot of times you guys will have block walls already. Like our property was already fenced, right? We saved some money because it was already fenced. We had shaded parking already. We saved that because I was already there for the old office building that was there. But outside of those items, shit, we had to almost redo everything. We had demolition. We still had to over excavate. We had swimming pools to take out. We had a lot of landscaping and a lot of buildings to tear down. So it wasn't just as clean, cut, and dry as you think, but we were still into that property, full construction and everything at 152 a square foot. Okay. Now, let's say it's 185 a square foot. Let's say that it costs you a little bit more. And I beg to go after the fact that you might even get prices as high as $200 a square foot. That's when you start reshopping the two things. The architecture needs to be all wood construction, no block, no craziness, just a simple build. Your architect can affect the cost of your build. So I just tell them all wood construction, all wood. That means all wood. Everything's built out of wood. No steel, no metal, no block, wood frame construction. Unless you're coastal and you have to use block, then you use block. Okay. And so if you take 6,000 square feet at $185 a square foot, or $180 a square foot, we could do 185. Hell with it. Let's do 185. Let's see. Okay, so we take 6,000 times $185 per square foot. This is square feet. So this is going to be our cost to build. This is soft cost and hard cost. That means architecture, engineering, all our soft costs, and then our infilled hard costs, lumber, trusses, foundations, grade work, all that stuff is included in here. So cost to build. $6,000 times 185. Okay, it's going to cost you $1,110,000. That's your total cost to build. Okay, that's a little on the high end, but that's okay. Let's stay on the high end just to be conservative. I think you can really get it done for about $1 million straight across, but let's just call it 1,110,000. Okay, now, no, $185 a square foot, Rick. Not $185,000 per unit. It'll probably be closer to about $200,000 per unit. But you'll yeah, so you'll be, well, actually, what is that? 110,100,000 divided by 6,000. Yeah, $185,000 a unit. Yep. Yeah, total cost in will be a little bit more than that. Let's get the total cost in. You'll be closer to about $200 a unit total cost in. But yeah, you're. I saw what you did. You just took the cost to build and divided it by 6,000. So yeah, you're 185 a square foot and also $185,000 per unit. Okay, now land cost for a little property like this will be someplace in the neighborhood of, let's say it's going to be someplace right in the neighborhood between 120 and 150. Let's call it like 140. Okay. Now, usually I tell people don't pay more than $15,000 per unit. But even if we do 20,000 times 6, that's $120,000. We'll even buffer it a little higher, say it's 140. Okay. Okay. So you got to remember, guys, you're not buying a lot of land here. You know, for a 6 unit, let's say that the density in that city, and look at the way this works, guys. You're buying a tiny little piece of shit lot, guys, and for a 6 unit. Let's say that you're medium density, even medium density, you can get, with medium density, you can get 25 units per acre. If you get high density, you might get 3 units per acre. 30 units per acre. I'm sorry. And so if you're like a medium density, even at 25 units per acre, you take 1 acre, you do take 25 units. So you take 25 divided by 6. You need a 1/4 acre of land, guys. 1/4 acre of land. So if you need like a 1/4 acre of land, okay, there's 43,650 square feet per acre. So if you do it, you take 43,650 divided by 4. That's an 11,000 square foot lot. Okay. So 11,000 square foot lot, the entire lot. Okay. So for a 1/4 acre of land, guys, it's not like buying a house, so it's gonna be less expensive. And what ends up happening as well is you're gonna be buying this probably where you might have to change the density. And because there's housing needed nationwide, affordable housing nationwide, guys, you got to understand that that municipalities are more apt to go in and pick up in most municipalities are willing to go in and pick up the weight as far as entitling that land for larger density. Okay, just like California is doing with ADUs right now. There's a lot of municipalities that are on board with that. Okay, Washington State is doing the exact same things. They even have a cottage code where all you need to build is you can go in and build on a 5,000 square foot lot. Shit, you could build on a 3,000 square foot lot. Okay, so you can go in and build on some really small lots in a lot of these municipalities. So this will be the art of it, is getting the land, right? Is this, once you figure this out, guys, oh man, it's a home run from there all the time. Okay, this is where your business model is going to be. Okay, now, so if you go in, you have the cost to build and you have your land cost. Now you're going to have debt service. Here's how you figure out debt service. You're going to take these two items right here. If you get a construction loan and they pay for your land out of that construction loan, you take 140 plus 1,110,000. That's $1,250,000. Okay. So we have debt service on $1,250,000. Let's say that you guys go out and get a local lender. We're finding local lenders, guys, that are lending between 7 and 8% on money now. A lot of them, and there's multiples. So let's just call it 8% interest. And this is a 6-month build, but let's say it takes you an entire year. So times 0.08. Okay, so that's $100,000 in debt service. Okay, now here's the thing. You have $100,000 in debt service if they gave you all of this money all at one time. Okay, now pay close attention here, guys. That's if they gave you all that money all at one time. But the bank will not give you all that money at the same time. They might give you your first draw for the land. Then you go in, you pour your foundations, and you're racing every 30 days to complete as much as possible. Because at the end of 30 days, you go to the bank and you tell the bank, you say, hey, Mr. Banker, I got my dirt work done, I got my foundation done, and I got my plumbing rough in done. So I'm 50% done with my plumbing. I'm 100% done with my dirt work, and I'm getting my foundation just went down. I'm 100% done with my foundation. So I want a draw for those items. They don't charge you interest on all of this. All they're charging you interest on is as you're taking draws. And so it escalates over the course of time. So if you take that $100,000, if you take 30% of that, that's typically right in the ballpark of about what your debt service is going to be between the time that it starts and the time that it ends. Now, at the end, you have a lot more debt service. So the goal is to get a stabilized loan as quick as possible with a lower interest rate. But let's say that you don't, and you have all this debt service during construction. Now times 0.08, you're going to have about, so that's $100,000. Take 30% of that. So take 30% of $100,000. So times 0.3, that's $30,000. Let's call it 40,000 just in case it takes you longer because you're just getting started. So your debt service is going to be someplace in the neighborhood of about $40,000. Okay, that's your debt service. Okay, now, so if we add up debt service, land, and build cost, our total cost I'll take 40,000, even though it's 30, plus $1,110,000 plus $140,000 for the land. Okay, now that, ladies and gentlemen, is $1,290,000 total cost. So if you get, is it worth building it? If you can build it all out of pocket for less than 1.3, and that's your total value, even at a 6% cap rate, is it worth it? Yes or no? Of course it's worth it. Okay, now let's look at what an 80% loan to value is. Okay, the bank will lend you this money, guys. There's a whole different art to that. I can't go over it today because it'll take way too friggin' long. That's for a whole different day, like Dallas. But if you take 80% of the value, so if you take 1,735,000 and you take an 80% loan to value, the bank is willing to give you 1,735,650 times 0.8, 1,388,520. Can we build it? Can we build it for an 80% loan to value? Can we do that? Yes or no? We can, right? The bank's going to lend us enough money to build it all out of pocket. Okay. Okay. Now there's an art to this, but when you stabilize, this is what the bank is looking for. They're looking for, hey, can we stabilize this without having to come to the table with any cash? It's not a huge amount of money, but you still have $100,000 in equity over your bank loan. In your bank loan lending over the total cost to build, you have a lot more equity in it. You have $500,000 of equity, or just shy thereof, of equity building it, even at a 6% cap rate. But your bank loan will be someplace right about this number right here. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be going over this in Dallas in depth. Today I wanted you guys to see how this actually works, and then I want to answer some questions. So I'm going to open up the table for some Q&A, guys. Let's open this up for some Q&A for you guys, and I'm going to stop my screen share. Pow. All right, guys. I'm going to defer it over out of the comment section and into the Q&A section if we can, because it'll just keep it so much cleaner. And I'll let my team communicate with you guys. Like, Esther, if you want to drop the Dallas link for people that want to go to Dallas, just drop that link in there for them. Should have had you guys drop that throughout there. But you can just drop that link in there for people that want to go to Dallas, okay, to register. Or if you guys look at your phones, there's a link that was just text messaged to you from my team. And you can set up a call, and my team can help you. And we can also help you with discounted room rates as well. So we're going to be at the Dallas. We try to make it as cost effective for everybody in Dallas. You guys spend a full day with me, lunch on me. We're gonna feed you guys, and it's gonna be a great day on June 22nd. Let's open this up for some Q&A, guys. Okay. Okay, what is the minimum lot size required for a 3-unit or 6-unit? It just depends. The municipality is gonna depict that. It's not you can't depict that. It's the municipality. So when you guys go in, you can change that density too, though. There might be a designated zoning initially when you guys go into this. There might be a designated zoning that's already available in there, right? That's when it's awesome. Like we just did we're doing a 29-unit apartment complex in on Taylor Street in downtown Phoenix, and it's already zoned correctly. There was 2 duplexes side by side, so there was 4 units. We're tearing them down, and we're getting 29 units on that lot, and it's 0.78 acres. It's just over 3/4 of an acre, and 29 units, guys, on 0.78 of an acre. 3/4 of an acre, 29 units. Okay, so a lot bigger than this one by 5 times almost. Okay, by almost 5 times. And so anyhow, you don't need that big of a lot for a 6-unit, and you might need maybe a 1/4 acre at the most. In most municipalities, you might even be able to get away with even a smaller lot. Okay, so you do not need a lot. Okay, for a 3-unit, shit, you can use on probably 1/8 of an acre. Okay, something really small, or you can go bigger. If the lots are bigger and you can get land for cheap, no problem. Okay, question is how to start and how to hire guys to make it. Yeah, so that's in the beginning when you're thinking about it. It sounds like an undertaking, and it's really not. It's you hire a general contractor. What you really do is you interview general contractors. I teach people how to do all that. What you really do is you do a broad outcast, right, of contractors that do build multifamily. Typically, I get referrals from my multifamily brokers, because multifamily brokers are like doctors. They specialize. They don't go and moonlight in retail. They don't go and moonlight in residential. Most cities, big ones across the United States, when you have a growing demographic, there's brokers, commercial brokers, and that's all they specialize in is multifamily. So I go ask those guys. I said, hey, who's doing the value add construction on all of your multifamily? And then they give me names. I said, can you give me the 3 best contractors that are doing value add to a lot of the multifamily that you're selling? Then you go talk to these guys, and they're full-blown contractors, and they already know apartment builds. They have a lot of contacts that you don't have, and you leverage their contacts and you hire them. The way you leverage their contacts is by hiring them. And our contractors fees, guys, over like in Youngtown, Arizona, the one we just finished, including GC fees, we built that entire property, 104 units for $152 a square foot. Okay, so you just go in and do a broad outreach of contractors. I kind of go through a training on how to do that, like the exact step-by-step method of hiring and the different ways you can pay your contractors so that you have options that fits their business model. So that way you're not hogtied or restrained to one business model or one general contractor. That way you have options, okay? And those options will probably defer to your personality. What type, how much of a people manager you are, or how many of you guys that hate it and just want to defer a different way. Then there's different ways to hire different types of contractors to mitigate your personality, okay? And so that's the best like nutshell version of that I can give you in just a quick minute. But yeah, that's how you hire guys. And it's just the referrals, guys. It's all referrals. That's just one way. There's a lot of different ways. Okay. All right. Hey guys, if you guys can keep your questions into the Q&A section on the Zoom call, okay? That'd be great. That way I don't have to jump back and forth and I don't lose what we've done. Okay. How can we alone get approved for this loan? Build one house, guys. If you build one house, you qualify for this loan. Okay. Go out and build one house. If you don't even build a house, just hire a general contractor. They qualify. They'll qualify you. Okay. So the biggest thing is most of you guys battle. I went through this with my inner circle last week, and I'm gonna tell you guys the same friggin' thing. I want to apologize on behalf of our schools. On their behalf, I apologize because they fucked every single one of you guys that are on here. okay? Because your brains, every single one of your brains in here, except for maybe 5 people on this whole call, we have hundreds of people on here, all of your brains are totally fucked when it comes to banking. None of you guys really understand how fucking banking works. And it's bullshit. It gets me mad. It gets me irritated because you guys go to school and spend 13,000 fucking hours in school. 13,000 hours from the time you're in first grade to the time you graduate high school. That okay, sorry guys. I'm not sure what the hell happened there. Okay, but my Wi-Fi just like kicked me out for a little bit because I cussed. It's like you ain't supposed to be cussing. Oh, man. In fact, if cussing gets you all wired up, man, you ain't gonna make it anyways. Go work in a church or something, whatever. I was just with our priest from our church. He was cussing this weekend. I love that guy. He's real. He's real. If you don't cuss, you ain't real. You ain't real. I don't trust you. If you don't cuss a little bit, guys, I don't trust you. I won't trust you. You're too fake for me, man. It's bullshit. Like you're bullshit. You're totally full of bullshit. Like all you guys say, oh yeah, you cuss too much. Fuck you. You're bullshit. I don't trust you. How can you trust somebody when they tell you that? Because my whole thing is like, man, I want a real person. Like when you cut yourself, you really bleed red. I'm a real person, guys. Just FYI. And there's not one thing you'll ever find on this whole friggin' earth that you'll ever find that'll show you that I ever lied, cheated, or stole from somebody. Ever. You'll never find it. You can go look to the deepest, hardest cracks of this earth. You'll never find it. And I've never lost money for other people or myself, So you can look, but if profanity hurts your feelings, I do it almost on purpose. My wife says, you shouldn't use much. I said, no, fuck that. Yeah, I should. Because that just vets people. Like my whole thing is like, man, if that hurts your feelings, you ain't going to make it no anyways. You're too soft, this isn't Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs. We're living in reality, guys. This is real world stuff. Okay. So look, yeah, my wife is a good woman. She's a real good woman. And so look, guys, let me tell you guys, here's the thing. Banking is so simple. I got off on a tangent. Sorry, guys. Banking is so simple if you understand how banking works. The problem is that nobody is taught in 13,000 hours how to go out and how to get a loan. And when you do go out and you buy a house, they teach it to you based on a debt to income ratio. And they're looking at it as a 30-year prime rate mortgage for your house. They don't even teach. If they really wanted to teach you how to get a mortgage, none of you guys would get a mortgage. If you really understood lending, you guys would all get HELOCs. You guys would get home equity lines of credit. You guys would not go out and get a mortgage. Mortgages are the stupidest thing in the world. So you guys don't even taught this. So I'll just give you something right here. Mortgages, you're going to pay you keep your mortgage for 30 years, you're going to pay 3 times what your sales price is to your house. 3 times over. So if you bought a house for $300,000, when you're done with a 30-year mortgage, you pay $900,000 for that house on average. Okay. If you do a HELOC, you'll only pay 1 time multiply over. So you pay twice. So you'll pay $600 still, but you'll save $300,000. Why in the world would you go out and do a mortgage? Mortgages are stupid, guys. No one teaches you this, though, because it's our banks. The Rockefellers put our education system together. They're teaching you that what they want so that their business called the bank is their business, how they work. They've swayed you guys they've lured you into their cult of banking. That's not the way real banking works, guys. Real banking is simple. It's all based on what I just showed you. It's all based on assets, values, and income. They want to know, how much does this asset make based on what the market is bearing? Can it afford itself? And if it can, they're not even looking at you. They want to make sure that you have credit, that they're not going to lend money to nobody, that just some loser out there with bad credit. Like I was one of those losers, right? They wouldn't lend money to me in the beginning because I had crappy credit. So what I tell you guys is, yeah, you have to have decent credit, but you can hire a GC and you can just have somebody with decent credit and the project makes sense. A set of plans makes sense, guys. Like a set of prints makes sense, a set of plans makes sense. This makes sense. The numbers that I just underwrote for you guys make sense. That's banking. What I just showed you guys, that's banking. That's how you get a loan. You don't even know all that other bullshit. That's how you get a loan, guys. So those of you guys that are asking, like, hey, how do I get a loan? That's how, right there. I just showed it to you. That's lending. Okay. All right. Zoning. Okay. So where did the $100,000 figure derive from? Which $100,000 figure? Where did the $100,000 figure derive from? I think that's the $104,000 NOI. I think. I'm not sure which $100,000 figure you're asking about. Debt service. Oh, the debt service? Yeah, the $100,000 debt service, that derived from an 8% interest rate. Okay. And then you take 30% of that for what, as it escalates. Okay. I'm not 100% sure, Lori, if that was what your question is. Just to elaborate on it, and I'm happy to answer for you. But I'm not sure which $100,000 you're deferring to exactly. Okay, Troy, does an opportunity zone increase your the value? If so, how does it play out? No, it does not increase the value of your property. All opportunity zones do, guys. And P.S. by the way, you have to register your op zone before you actually take ownership of it. If you take ownership of it and you haven't registered your op zone, the op zone is worth zero to you. All opportunity zones are more for capital gains taxes on the back end. An opportunity zone, it de-escalates capital gains taxes the longer you hold it. And if you hold the asset for 10 years, no matter what the upside is, you pay $0 in capital gains tax. So if you go in and you build an asset for $2 million and then it's worth $4 million in 10 years from now and you sell it, that $2 million gain that you get, you pay $0 in capital gains, even if you depreciate the entire asset. So even if you depreciate the $2 million value that you have doing cost segregation, you could depreciate it down to zero, sell the asset for $4 million, take a $4 million gain, including the $2 million depreciation, and you still pay $0 in capital gains taxes if you hold it for 10 years. So there's a de-escalation of those as you go into it. Like if you hold it for 2 years, then if you hold it for 5 years, and you hold it for 10 years, it de-escalates. But opportunity zones are not as cut and dry as you guys think they are. They sound real pretty to a lot of people. Most people ask questions like that on them because they're interested in them, but they don't really understand them. We've worked opportunity zones. In fact, West Camelback, that $60 million development that I'm building, not this one that's behind me. This is my $40 million development in Rio Rancho. It's my West Camelback project in West Phoenix by GCU. That one's in an opportunity zone. And we're not even taking advantage of it fully because of the way it's structured. And the way because of our attorneys' lack of direction for us, because even some of the attorneys don't understand all of the op zones. So if you have an op zone, my suggestion to you is consult with an attorney that really understands opportunity zones and make sure that they help guide you into the purchase. Because if they don't guide you into the purchase, even if you purchase it in an opportunity zone, your purchase and an opportunity zone are worth zero. Unless you actually go in and execute the opportunity zone prior to buying. Okay. Does an opportunity zone increase? Okay, we already went through that one. Why didn't we apply for DSCR against the NOI to size a bank loan? Isn't that another constraint the bank will apply in addition to LTV? It can. So banks underwrite different ways. There's debt ratios that they ride on. There's multiple ways that different banks underwrite. That's why I always tell people in this market, shop a lot of banks. So if you guys go in and you guys are dealing with lending right now, one of the big things with lending right now is that banks are getting very, very creative on how they're underwriting, what their CEOs are allowing them to underwrite. But no, they'll look at loan to value, but values are so arbitrage right now. They're looking at the asset based on its current basis, so that's why loan to cost for a lot of these banks is more important, because they're looking at it based on underwritten baseline. They're looking at the expenses, they're looking at the debt ratio, they're looking at all that stuff. And sometimes, because values right now are like arbitrage, they're like they're kind of fake, so they're looking at the value, yes, but they're looking more at like what their risk factor is based on debt service. Some of them are using debt service over sulfur, and then there's, I don't want to confuse you guys, but they're looking at it from multiple perspectives. Okay, so different banks, when you talk to them, you're interviewing the banks to see what their perspective is, because based on how they underwrite, one bank might give you more leverage than another bank, or one bank might give you less leverage but more but lower interest rates because of the way they're underwriting it. And you just have to figure out what's best for you, right? Don't worry about banking until you learn this, though. Guys, once you guys get this, banking's easy, because now you'll have options. Once you have a set of plans, guys, then you guys got options. Now you can interview the banks, and now you can pick your terms. So you don't have to look at you don't have to look at one banking option. We don't. We look at the banking option, and we interview banks, and we choose the bank. The bank doesn't choose us. We choose the bank. When we have this, guys, we have a real project, we choose the bank. Okay? Just know that. I know a lot of you guys go in going, oh God, please God, oh God, please God, give me a loan. Oh God, please God, can I get a loan? Please, please, oh dear Lord God, can I get a loan? Please, can I get a loan? And you guys are going back going, oh my God, how can I get a loan? We don't do that. We go back and we say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, for letting me put this together. Because with this, I can get a loan. Thank you for the loan, God. Now I can pick a bank, and I can pick the options on how the bank underwrites my project. And based on how they underwrite it, it's going to depend on what type of leverage I can get, how much money I can get from them, depending on how they underwrite it. And I'm going to obviously pick the bank that has the best terms and gives me the most amount of money. Okay? And that's what we do. Okay, is it different to change a property from single to multifamily? It's a day in the office, right? So if you have to change the zoning, it could take up to 9 months, guys, truth be told. So a lot of times we don't take ownership of the land until we make us taking ownership of the land contingent on our ability to change zoning. Because if we buy the land and then we can't change zoning, the land's worth nothing to us. Like, I don't want it no more, right? So what I do is I go tie up the land, and I give them an honest, ethical amount of escrow money to tie it up legally. That's refundable. And then I ask them for like 90 days worth of due diligence. And I start working through the process of changing the zoning. And then if it looks positive, like it's going good, I'm getting support from the city, they want it, then it's just a matter of talking to neighbors. And we usually hire third-party consulting companies that do the canvassing and neighbor stuff for us. And then we go in and then we get the zoning changed most times. In fact, in the last 10 years, I've gotten 100% of my zoning requests in the last decade. And it's because of the process and the way we do it. And so if we know we don't feel comfortable about it, the reason I don't fail them is because I don't feel comfortable about it, I just withdraw from the purchase and I get all my money back. And then after 90 days, if I still don't feel comfortable, I say, well, I still want the land, but I need another 30 days of due diligence before I go hard on my money, because we're having issues with the neighbors or the city not supporting it. So if you want to sell it, the next buyer is going to have the same problems I'm having. So you can either wait for me to do it, or you can lose the sale and wait for the next buyer to do it. They're going to need the same time that I'm putting into it right now. So most sellers would be like, okay, I'll wait an extra 30 days. And a lot of times they'll give you an extra 30 days. And then you go in and then you all say, okay, now we're hard on the money after 120 days or 90 days or whatever it is. Now I'm hard, so I'm committed. That means it's non-refundable. But I need another 90 on top of that to continue the process of getting the zoning, because it's contingent on having a validated, stamped, signed, sealed zoning change. Now, you can't get the zoning change unless they sign on it as the prior owner, or you take ownership of it. So a lot of times we'll get all the way to the end where they give you approval, but they won't, the city and municipality won't sign it and stamp it until we take ownership, but it's approved through city council. So it's approved. Then we go into the bank and say, hey, we're approved. Here's our approval. Here's our temporary approval until we take ownership of it. And that's when we get our loan. That's when we go in and we take ownership of the land, and then we get them out from underneath it. And now we're able to go in and get a bank loan. Okay. So there's a process to this, and it's an art. It's an art, guys. Okay. Chicago, 25 by 125. I don't know what that means. Is that like 25 units times? I don't know what that means. Chicago, 25 by 125. Sorry. Yeah, it's being recorded, Tegan. Yeah, so sorry, Sid, I don't know what Chicago 25 by 125 is. You just elaborate on that, and I'm happy to help you. If anybody else knows what they're talking about, I'm happy to answer that as well. If you're building a place in a place like California, it could take years. Oh, you put 2 units. Oh, that's the size of the lot. You put 2 units on a lot that's 25 by 125. So you put 25 by 125. That's 3,000 square feet. That's a duplex on 3,000 square foot lot. Okay. So just kind of reinforcement to what I'm talking about as far as square footage. I said like 11,000 square feet for like 6 units. That would be equivalent on this one times 3. That'd be so 3 times so 2, 4, 6. Yeah. So that'd be like 9,500 square feet. Okay. So yeah. So he's just giving affirmation of the size. But yeah, you can probably put a duplex on a small 3,000 square foot lot like that. If you're building in a place like California, it could take years to get approved and property built. How can you forecast cost and build? So California, these places are changing, guys. Yes, there's hard places, but there's also places in California, because I'm doing stuff in like Kirkland, Washington. Kirkland, Washington is just as friggin' hard as California, and we have to watch the volatility of the market. But our upside, okay, so it takes us like 18 months to get permits out in Washington, in the Seattle market. But I get like a 3-fold multiplier on my profits. We'll make over 400 grand per unit just in that area. And our rents are exponential, man. The stabilization is unbelievable. California is very similar to that. And here's the thing, guys. Right now, nationally, in Washington, D.C., legislators are fighting municipalities. And here's what's cool about California. So if you don't know this is important for you to know, an anonymous attendee. In California, if you're more in a rush to get denied on a municipal level, because then you are approved. Because if you can get approved on a municipal level, great. What you need to be in a rush for in California is you need to be in a rush in California to get denied on a municipal level, because the state of California, the governor of California, implemented a new law that if you get denied for increased density on housing, if you get denied on a municipal level, you can then qualify to get your plans reviewed on a state level, and the state of California can trump over the municipality now and give you approval. And they're working to expedite that approval. My buddy Mikey Taylor develops only in California. His perspective is that he knows that everybody thinks it's too hard there, so he's only develops in California. He goes, I have no competition, Jerome. No one wants to come here because they think it's hard. Now I'm more in a rush to get denied on a municipal level, so I can just rush the process on a state level. And he goes, and then I get approved on a state level, and I go. So he goes, I try to do everything I can to get a denial, because the first time I get my first denial, I go to the state. That's my only requirement, is to get denied. So instead of fighting with them to try to get approved, the first time you get denied on a state level in California, on a municipal level, you take your designs to the state, the State Construction Industries Division, and you submit for review with city council on a state level, and then you just expunge all that bullshit. Okay, so California guys, I know most of you guys don't know that, but that is a real law that really passed legislation, and that's available to you. So be in a rush to get denied so you can go on a state level, because the state will approve your density increase, as long as you comply with normal building codes, right? Okay. What was the cost per square foot range on recent projects? Wood frame, no elevator. Yeah, $152 my most recent cost. In Kirtland, Washington, we're going to be finishing that project out now in July. So we're right here. It looks like 165 in Kirtland, Washington, and 152, and that includes general contractors fees, guys. That includes general contractors fees. We're going to build our Rio Rancho project, this one right behind me here, for about 185 a square foot. That's our budget. We're going to try to execute to get it done at 165 a square foot. This is a 150 unit build, by the way. I think we'll hit close between 165 and 170 on this one, and it steps down. So there's some retaining walls and some other costs in there. But I think we'll hit 165 a square foot to 170. We're underwriting at 185, but we've been finishing developments out between 152 and 165 a square foot in different areas. Okay. Will there be a record? Yeah, there'll be a recorded version. You guys will all get it by tomorrow morning. Okay. Do you have private coaching? Yes, we do. Hit out of those. There's a link that was just text to you, or you can drop your phone number to anybody that's an admin in here. Anybody that's an admin in here, you can drop your phone number to any of them privately or publicly. I mean, it just depends, whatever you want, and they can call you. But there's a link in a text message that you got about 20 minutes ago. Oh shit, we're going long. About 30 minutes ago. That you got about 30 minutes ago that if you just click that link, you can set up a call with my team and they can see where you are and advise, options for you. So for those of you guys that got that little link, schedule a call with my team to learn how you guys can come in and work with us in our inner circle. We've had thousands of students. We have hundreds of active students all over the country. I will tell you guys, I'm limiting 150 attendees in Dallas. If you guys really want coaching, shit, man, get to Dallas, guys. I'm telling you. I've never done these little workshops before. I'm going to take you guys in the morning session 1. I'm going to deep dive into single family residential builds, teaching you guys how to build single family residential. And then I'm going to, in the afternoon, in the session 2, and you guys are going to do this in groups, right? And I'm going to have my Build Wealth people there. These people pay $30,000 to be a part of our Build Wealth Mastermind. These are our higher level students. I'm going to set one of those people at every single table. So you guys will be able to work with me. I'm going to be on stage. I'm going to explain everything, and I'm going to break it all down. We're going to give you guys like spreadsheets. And then I'm going to bring in like Kyle Mitchell, my business partner who does the asset management side. I'm going to also bring in a couple other surprise guest speakers that are high-level multifamily guys that most of you guys probably know, that'll be there as well as speakers. But it's just going to be a workshop, guys. And then session 2, we're going to go in depth, like underwriting an 8-unit apartment complex, 8 and 10-unit apartment complex, just like the 6-unit that we did today. But I'm going to go in more depth. So I'm going to have more time. So I'm going to talk about lending, how to get lending, how to set yourself up where you need almost nothing out of pocket to get lending, and how to structure it. There's like games. It's like poker, right? You just have to know how poker's played, man. Like if you know the game of poker, you just need to know the rules, and all of a sudden you become a better poker player, just like blackjack. There's like books on blackjack. I'm going to teach you the blackjack how-to build multifamily and how banks look at it, right? So we're going to go through this in Dallas on June 22nd. I'm going to be there live. I'm only going to limit like 150 people, guys. And I've never done these before. It's going to be cool. We're going to spend a whole day together from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. I'm going to have you guys come in and have lunch with me. So we're not even going to leave, guys. We're going to stay there. We're going to have lunch there. You're going to spend an entire day with me. It's going to be intense all day. Not like nothing you've ever done. I don't think there's anybody in the industry doing this. And then at night, I might open it up where like I'd say, hey guys, if like 10 of you guys want to come to dinner with me, it's like $1,500 or $1,000 to come spend the rest of the evening with me. I'll take like 10 people to dinner or something. I haven't done that yet. I don't know if I'm going to really do that, but I might. I'm thinking about it. Okay. Okay. We got more questions, guys. Let me answer more for you guys. Still a ton of you guys on here. There's still a shit ton of you guys on here. Cool. Got a big group wanting to learn today. I love it. Okay, let's see here. More Q&A. Shit, 41 more Q&As. Good God. Okay. I don't know if I can get through all. I'm going to start going faster through these. Okay. Is it required to have parking lots for your apartment buildings? Yes and no. Uh, yes, in most municipalities, in urban areas that are inner city, a lot of times, like in Seattle, no, I don't even need parking lots. Um, if you have public transit, a lot of times, you if for especially for small stuff like this, you may not have to have parking. But in most buildings that we do, yes, you have to have parking because we're building like semi-rural or we're doing a lot of infill, so it's mixed. Depends on public transit. Is it required? Okay, so then Juan Alvarez, how much cash reserve in the bank for a loan to be able to survive this with minimal withdrawals? So I think you mean during like the loan process. Um, you got to keep just working your job, bro, so you can afford your doing what you're doing. But I usually teach this, Juan, to people that are coming in building houses already. So they continue building houses. So like if it takes them 6 months to get zoning and then 6 months to build it, it's a full year build. You could build 2 to 4 homes in that time period and crush out between 400 to an $800,000 profit building houses just during that time period. But if you need a cash reserve, like for the banks want to see about 10% liquidity. So if you have like a $1.5 million loan, you need about $150,000 in the bank in order to get the loan. Okay, typically, or a partner that has that liquidity in the bank. Okay, or there's other ways. And so you can raise the capital and have it and use that for the equity stack. And it doesn't even have to be your own money. And as long as you let that money mature in your bank account, or not your bank account, but in the entity bank account, don't ever put it in your own bank account. You don't want to commingle. And the entity's bank account as the equity and let it mature in the entity's bank account for 60 days, then you can collateralize that money on the equity stack against your loan, and you don't have to have any money. You can just have a job and good credit. Now I will tell you guys with multifamily, you guys will need to have decent credit or partner with somebody who does. It's not going to give a multifamily loan to somebody with a 400 credit score. Okay. So you'll want to make sure that you clean up your credit. So if your credit's an issue, get with us. We'll get you set in the right direction. Okay. If you have a lot already that has small multifamily, but it's old and want to tear it down. Oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah. And build more units. Do you have to pay your loan in entirety before you are considered knocking down the building? So yes and no. The bank won't allow you to decollateralize the asset if you're going to go with a different bank. But what I would do is you could look at it from a land acquisition standpoint, where you can go to a new bank and you can go in and say, hey, we have a debt service on this land of 300 grand, 200 grand, whatever it is. And it needs to get paid off, right? And so the first draw the bank takes, as long as your numbers, it's all underwriting. It all comes down to underwriting. It all comes down to what I did before. If the numbers make sense, like they did on the underwriting that I did before, and you're not upside down on your land, then yes, you can just go to the bank, allow them to collateralize your asset against it, now fully entitled, because you go in and you get your entitlements, your plans and stuff, your approval for your new ones, and you go to a new bank with this. And then you take in and say, hey, like I got 4 units and I'm going to do, or I got 2 units and I'm going to do 8 units. I got the land already, do 8, and I got the plans to support 8. I'm going to tear the 2 down. That's kind of what we're doing on our Taylor Street project. There's already 4 units on there. And so we're going to buy the land cash, though. We're not going to get a loan on it, but we haven't even bought the land yet. We don't close on the land until late July. And we've had it tied up for 3 months already. And we're already halfway through our entitlement process already. So we're already pushing forward and making this stuff happen. And by the time we're fully entitled, we will have closing on the land, and then we will push forward on the build. And so you can do the same thing. And then that bank will pay off your other debt, and then they'll collateralize that land fully entitled, because the land's worth more now. The land value is now worth more. Now the bank will collateralize the land because it's worth more, because you've got more density, higher density, and the zoning that you need to get higher density. And now you can go in and get your construction project pushing forward. So yeah, Brittany, that's a great way. If you have your land, you need to be in Dallas. You can come talk to me, and I'll kind of give you the more insight on that. That's a loaded question. I could go into a course just on that alone. Okay. Do you have a step-by-step method? Yeah, everything I do is step-by-step. Everything I do, everything that we do. Our Build Wealth Mastermind, that's like a year worth of step-by-step method. But it's the same method as building a friggin' house, guys. There's just more engineers and more architecture involved. That's it. A little bit more time if you have to do zone changes and stuff. So that the entitlement process is a little bit longer. But outside of that, man, it's all the same. It's all the same, guys. All the same. Gerardo, how to get the numbers right with the subs, fees, land price costs, to get the total capex with enough space for profit. Yeah, Gerardo, you're looking at this from like a renovation profit aspect. CapEx is capital expenditures once you have a finished asset. There's no CapEx in new construction. It's all construction costs, right? Capital expenses are expenses that you incur, like when your roof goes bad on a building like this. You're going to need all that capital to expense $1 million roof, right? There is no capital expenses on a non-existing asset that you're building new. It's just a construction loan. Okay, so we have a spreadsheet, and anybody who goes to Dallas is going to get all our underwriting spreadsheets, all our Excel spreadsheets. Because how valuable would it be to have an underwriting spreadsheet that goes through everything that I went through today and actually go step by step in sequential order of what you're going to have to do step by step. Okay, it's invaluable, guys. And so you're going to be utilizing those spreadsheets in Dallas with us. Okay. So how do you get the numbers right with subs? You send your project out to bid. The way we do it is we take our plans like this electronically, and we send them out to all our subcontractors, multiples. We'll send it out to every trade, to 3 to 5 different subcontractors for every trade. And then they send us bids back based on our architecture right here. That's how we get real numbers. So we're doing that while we're getting our bank loan. Okay, how to get the numbers right? Okay, what city is land so cheap and rent so is high? What city is land so cheap and rent so high? Most cities where rents are high, land's not cheap. Most cities where land is cheap, rents are slightly lower. There's different cities like Dallas, for example. Holy shit, man. Rents are low, man. Too low. In Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, the rents are too damn low. They need to go up. You can't even afford to build out there, guys. So when I say they have to go up, they have to support development, or you can't develop. Can't even support it. Dallas, Fort Worth, it's crazy. They get 8,000 people moving into the Dallas-Fort Worth area every single month. Population increase is nutty, but developers are having a really tough time building in Dallas-Fort Worth. There's projects that are finishing now, but you're going to see all that come to an end here if they don't get the rents up in Dallas, because property taxes are too damn expensive, and so is electricity out there. So yeah, most cities where rent is high, land is expensive. In most cities where rents are lower, land is less expensive. And if you find a caveat to that, don't build in that city. Okay, go to a different city right down the road. You right in your municipality, you could have different cities that kind of variegate, and you can go in and just play in your own market, just outside of one metro area to another. If 10 acres can be acquired for $100,000, not 10 acres. You can acquire 10 acres for $1,000 in some areas, but a railroad runs beside it. Does it make sense? Build a series of sixplexes, apartments, and stage? Could probably build first couple. You know what's funny about railroads? It's not the most desirable place to live for most people. But my first rental home, literally the railroad track for Santa Fe Railroad ran directly in my backyard. Like I had an easement for the railroads that went in my backyard, my first rental home. And that house was always friggin' rent. And we even built a little ADU in the back, and I had another little second house that we built in the back. I don't know, man. Those things stayed full. It was a decent area of town, not a great area of town. So, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you to go build on a train by a train track. There's better areas, I'll tell you that. But I don't know. We always rented. The house was always rented. So, you just have to look at the market and see, is there a demand, and this is in Albuquerque, where there's demand, but at that time, 20 years ago, there wasn't that big of a demand, and it rented. We just had a nice house. It was a nice property. You stopped. Yeah, I probably froze when I stopped a little bit ago. Are 4 stories to be avoided due to elevators? Yeah, I'd stay away from 4 stories unless you know what you're doing, or you can get massive density. And for most people, unless you have experience getting the density you need to do 4 stories, most people on here don't have that experience. Might be a handful of you guys that do. But yeah, stay away from 4 stories if you can. My West Camelback project is 4 stories, but we have 208 units. We bought our land for cheap, and it's in a prime friggin' area. We're right by GCU, where GCU just has spent over $1.3 billion in upgrades in the last 5 years. I mean, we're in a prime area. So you got to be in a Class A area. We're in a Class A location, and so we can afford to go 4 stories, elevators, rent support it, development costs, all of that. Okay. Is it better to create holding company structures and create subsidiary companies for different properties, as well as for doing business with limited partnerships? Yeah, that's a loaded question, Jay, but yes, you need to separate your properties. Each property should be in a different LLC. Okay. Week 2 of our educational program, I go through 10 consecutive videos. There's probably about 8 hours worth of entity structuring for asset protection, liability, and for lending purposes, mostly for asset protection. And I go through it in depth, and for partnerships. And so, Jay, we have all that. It's a loaded question, but yes, to answer it in a small amount of time, very minimal, without getting. I can do a full weekend training just on entity structuring alone. But the answer to that is yes, you should separate all your properties, all of them, every single one of them. Unless you're doing single family homes and you want to package a little portfolio and per city or something, you could do that. But if you're doing multifamily or commercial assets, yeah, you need to be having them in separate entities. It's just passion, bro. It is just passion, man. Okay. All right. So higher. Let's see. I have a few more minutes here, guys. So it's getting late. Frame everything the same. So do I take GC with me to start the process? No, you don't need a GC till the end. You can do the GC. You come in and take us with you for margin of the price of a GC. Come in and work with us for $8,000, $10,000 for the rest of your life. We have a one-time fee if you want to do that. The GC is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars on one project, and then it'll charge you for everything. If you're not careful, the GC, your architect, same thing. You go in and you learn the process through educational stuff like this, and then you go in, you hire these guys, and you make the large bang for your buck doing that, guys. Okay. But yeah, you don't need the GC, but if you have a GC at your fingertips that knows multifamily, then yes. Okay. Take advantage of their knowledge. I'll always leverage information and knowledge, especially if it's free. Wood frame for everything? Yes, wood frame for everything. Ever save on materials with concrete, foam, and rebar? Only in coastal areas, but most time, no. Wood frame is always less. If I miss Dallas event, what options are for me to start building? You're screwed, man. You can't do nothing. You just might as well jump off a cliff. I'm just joking. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, if you miss Dallas, I'd try to be there for sure, but it's not the end of the world, right? As long as God gives me life, I'll do something again someplace. It might not be as close as Dallas, but it'll be someplace. Okay. So, my suggestion to you is get your ass to Dallas. But yeah, if you miss it, I'm still here. Mortgage is a French term that means death pledge. That's right. So if you don't do a mortgage, and how do you buy a home then? Buy through a HELOC. Buy through a HELOC, through a home equity line of credit. Get a line of credit on your home. Pay that. Your payments will be higher, but your debt service will be substantially lower. Mortgages are weight heavy on interest for the first 10 years. HELOCs are principal heavy on the front end for the first 10 years. So you're actually paying down your mortgage. Pay your mortgage for 10 years. See how much principal actually gets paid. You'll pay like a $2,000 mortgage and like $185 will go to principal. It's friggin' ridiculous. So mortgages are a friggin' scam. Everyone is going to have so many questions that is new to this step-by-step process. Yeah, Michael, that's why you have to come in. I already have all the educational content. I tell people, man, watch all the educational content that I have when you become a part of this. That way, when you come to like meetings with me, you're educated. That's what I tell people, man. Go to Dallas, but get started working with us, man. That way you watch and watch it. More of this more that goes in here, the more is going to come out here, more money is going to go in your pockets, man. That's all I got to tell you. It's like you can't get a PhD overnight, right? Difference is you can earn while you learn here, because I can teach you how to build a house in the first year, or you can go take a 4-year college degree and make $60,000 in 4 years from now. That's what the average college degree gets you. One or the other, your choice. But yeah, Michael, there's gonna be a lot of questions. You're gonna have a shit ton of questions, and we have the answers. We have the answers. That's the good news, is we do have the answers. We are currently building homes. What is the best loan to use to start this process? We are currently building specs very successfully. Congratulations, Scott, man, that's freaking badass. Now the down payments are horrendous. We used to be able, dude, what you need to do, Scott, is take your profits and don't spend it. You need to collateralize your profits against a line of credit instead of trying to get construction loans on every house. Plus, that's too friggin' slow, Scott. People make that mistake when they're doing spec homes, is every house they're getting construction on, every friggin' house, every house. It's so stressful. Collateralize your profits as debt service on a line of credit. And so if you do that and you put like $200,000 in debt service, you can get like a $1.5-2 million line of credit loan, and just get a line of credit that's revolving. It's a revolving line of credit. That's the way to do it, Scott, because this is so much easier. So much easier, especially if you're already building spec homes and you have experience like you do. There's an easier game for you, Scott. I promise. So we have to get a loan, get an SBA loan for like $5 million, man. Get a small business loan, man. The SBA 30s, there's a ton of great SBA loans, man, for small business owners that are growing instead of what you're doing. And if you have bankroll and you're making money on your specs, man, you're not hitting the right nail on the head yet. And these mortgage lenders, they'll keep giving you construction loans. That's the way to get started, but it's not the place to stay. Okay. So we have to build a house first to get, no, not, you don't have to, Justin, you don't have to. I suggest this, you learn the process. It's just like an easier barrier of entry. So it's like your confidence goes up. For those of you guys that don't have the mental capacity to go into a multifamily deal, then yeah, build a house first, man, because you'll make money doing it. And then your confidence will go up. I'm trying to say like, hey man, like I want everybody doing this shit because we need it. And there's no lack there's no lack of need. You guys aren't going to step on my toes by doing this. I'll tell you that. And you're not going to step on each other's toes by doing this either. So yes, you can go in and get experience by building single family homes. Okay. Or scale it. So we have to, okay. So can you explain further, Justin? I'm not sure what else you want me to explain further, but yeah, if you have, just drop it in there. Okay, 35, shit. I don't think we're going to get through all these guys. I'm going to go through like 4 or 5 more. I'm already running a little late, but wanted to give you guys as much value as possible today. You're right. I just came from a 3-day seminar, and they lived and played around how to really get started. They gave us pieces and asked for money, but for more pieces. Shit, I wanted someone to tell me how to really get the damn money. Single mom, 4, I don't have time for bullshit. I don't have time for bullshit either. Christine, thank you for that, because I don't have time for bullshit either. Yeah, Christine. And so you got to understand it like this too, Christine. We're going to give you a lot of information. We're going to feed you with a fire hose in Dallas, and I'll tell you that it's going to be a lot of information. The thing is you're going to the networking in the community is strong because you're going to be around the right people that are going to help support you in addition to us. But it's going to take more than just one day. You know, it just you're not going to get it all in one day. I mean, you'll get enough in one day where it's like it'll move mountains for you. But the retention, man, like the retention ability is real. Like, I mean, we're only human, right? Like, I can't give you everybody a PhD on a Saturday, right? So you got to set your expectations and make them realistic as well. I mean, you go to Dallas and you spend the day with us. I mean, the cost is $597, right? I think my team is actually letting you guys use like discount links for like $297, and I feed you lunch that costs me like $100 a plate. Plus, I'm paying for the venue. We're doing this like for free for you guys. It's like a stupid no-brainer, right? Um, so my biggest thing is like, hey, come and learn some really cool shit, and you're going to learn way more than you can palate in a day. We're going to give you that much information. Now, what you do with it and how you execute is up to you, because we'll give you resources from there that you can continue your education. But you'll never get a PhD, not on something like this, not in a 1 day class, right? Not in a 1 hour webinar like this either. It's education that continues, man, that you got to grow with. Okay. As far as a phone number to call, give this person a phone number, guys. Do you partner with students? Only if I know you for a couple of years and you're a badass like Ramez and these guys, Loose. But yeah, very, very limited. I got to know you. I got to trust you. I got to know you're worth partnering with. And I don't partner with broke people either. Just FYI, because broke people will lie, cheat, and steal from their family if they're in survival mode. I need you guys to make some money doing some basic stuff like building houses and stuff. Then once you become a badass and I recognize you, then yes, I will partner with you. With not you, but people, good people that I know aren't. Most people want me to do it for them. I'm like, I'm teaching people how to fish, baby. You parable. You can feed a man a fish, feed him for a day, or you can teach a man a fish and feed him for a lifetime. Most people are needy. They want me to fish for them. I'm only one person. I can't fish for the whole world, you know. So I need you guys to learn how to fish. If I can see that you learn how to fish, that's when I'll start. That's when I'll start partnering with people. You got to learn how to fish first, baby. You have a 25 by 125 plot. Potentially, you have to go see site. Go to the city and see what the requirements are. That's a city question. Okay, potentially you can build multi-unit, potentially, but go to the city, the municipality you're in, and go in and check with them. Yes, you'll need zoning. Jerome, can we touch on workflow that occurs during the major phases? I tend to get bogged down in the weeds while executing. How do you get to and keep things rolling? Subcontractor management, accounting, payable, receivables, etc. Yeah. So LK, great question. Again, that's a whole weekend course in itself, but our modules go through all of that. Our modules go through all of that. And we teach on all of that stuff when you're working with us. Okay, 2 more questions, guys. Would a city allow me to build a property building that surpasses code? Potentially, but you got to get approval. You can't just build it. They will allow you if you adapt it into the master plan, but there's an art to that as well, right? That you guys have to know how to do that. We did that with our West Camelback project. We did it with this project right here. This didn't comply with nothing. Parking, density, nothing. So yeah, you just have to comply. Yeah, Mikey Taylor, the skateboarder, is the right one. One last question. Options on 400 to 700 square foot costs in California. Opinion on $400 to $700 per square foot. Yeah, you're going to be more expensive. It's costing us 400. It's not 400 square foot. You're not going to pay that much, man. I'm building in Kirkland, Washington, Charlie, and we're not even paying close to that. And Kirkland, Washington is every bit as expensive to build in as California. Believe you me. And the red tape is every bit as friggin' hard as California as well. And we're building for half of the 400. So you can build for less than that in California, unless you're behind like Class A general contractor, all amenities, and you're throwing in all the bells and whistles, and you're giving half your development away to GC fees. That's the only way you'll do that. But I won't let you guys do that. Not if you guys are working with me. Okay, cool. All right, guys.